Welcome, everybody. From the energy I feel in the room today, what I felt this morning in the sessions, and certainly yesterday in the workshops, we're off to a magnificent start for our second T&L. Thank you all for being here. As you've just heard, this is our second event in DC, but our roots go back to 2006 in New York City, and many of the people in this room helped create that conference back in those days. And the goal was simple. We wanted to create something that was truly special. We didn't think education needed just another conference. We thought education needed something that was going to elevate this profession. But then why shouldn't a conference have such aspirations? This conference belongs to the teaching profession, our profession. You go to work every day wanting your classrooms and your schools to be the place where knowledge meets inspiration. To maintain and fuel such high expectations, you deserve the best when you give up your time and talent to attend a conference like this. We hope that Teaching and Learning provides you with some of what you need to realize the full dream that is at the root of public education. The National Board is pleased to host this event, but we don't own it. You do. This conference belongs to the teaching workforce and all educators who have responsibility for supporting teachers in the sacred work that they do. It belongs to the advisory boards and partners. It belongs to our sponsors, who are also partners. An event like this is not cheap to put on. Sponsors have limited amount of money and endless places to put it. Why would they choose Teaching and Learning to invest in? There is only one reason. They believe in our mission. They believe in our vision for what educators need to accomplish their goal. This conference is not a fundraiser, not for the National Board, not for anyone. This conference is an investment in teachers. The numbers are impressive this year. We are once again at 3,000 educators each day. You come from all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and thanks to our good friends at the Visiting International Fellows Program, we have teachers here from 18 different countries. Without question, the most exciting new development this year that we have is that we've combined forces with Digital Learning Day, the brainchild of Governor Bob Wise and the Alliance for Excellent Education. This is their fourth Digital Learning Day.
They don't have that mic turned on, do they?
And Governor Wise and I thought it was time to bring the two events together, not just so that people who couldn't be here today could benefit from the plenary sessions like this one, but we want to show what digital technologies can do in the 21st century, to extend the reach that we know has to start face-to-face, live, when we all come together, but extend then to tens of thousands of educators around the world. Thank you, Governor Wise, for your leadership and your partnership. We look forward to today's town hall meeting at 1 o'clock, when we literally will be joined by tens of thousands of educators around the world. I also want to thank the 15 DC-based cultural organizations who opened their doors yesterday so that teachers could have an experience that is so unique that you have bragging rights back at your faculty rooms for months and months and months. These workshops in places like Ford's Theater, the Holocaust Museum, the Library of Congress, these are not tours. These were special programs that were created for you at no additional cost. And I was especially pleased that the Frederick Douglass House joined us this year, Frederick Douglass House being part of the National Park Service. I ask each one of you who attended one of those workshops to share what you learned back in your schools. I listened to teachers last night. I listened to one in particular who said, I cannot believe I was sitting at the board table of National Geographic, and I'm a high school teacher. These are experiences that teachers need to have on a regular basis, but they seem to only happen at Teaching and Learning. We have a lot to do today, but I want to pause for a second to give you something to think about. Teaching as a profession has come to a very important moment. In my 40 years as an educator, I do not remember a time when I witnessed such resolve among teachers and principals, teacher educators, and policymakers to take charge of our own profession, to do the work that other professions have done over the years, to gain not only the respect and prestige they deserve, but in order to do the best possible job for their patients, their clients, and in our case, our students. Every profession exists within a set of structures imposed on them by government at all levels. Every profession has to work within the limitations of the public and private sector. Every profession has to deal with strong self-interests that don't always align to their interests. But somehow they learn to transcend those things. And the way they do it is always the same. They invest in the workforce, because the workforce is the one thing a profession can control. The quality of the people who make up that profession. That's what we control, that's what makes us unique, and that's the job that lies ahead of us. Some of you know that the National Board has taken an especially careful look at the medical profession and how it has developed over the last 100 years especially. Are there things that they've done that can inform us to make us better? We aren't doctors and nurses. We have our own unique way of dealing with our students. The work of a teacher is every bit as complicated as the work of a doctor, maybe even more so. So how is it that in the eyes of the public, teachers look so different from doctors and other professionals? When I came to the National Board in 2011, my good friend Sharon Robinson at AACTE told me that I needed to read Paul Starr's Pulitzer Prize-winning book, The Transformation of American Medicine, which I did, and many members of our staff did as well. Early on in that book, there are two short sentences that I think are on the screen behind me. They leap from the page. I'd like to share them with you now. In the 19th century, the medical profession was generally weak, divided, insecure in its status and income, unable to control entry into practice or to raise the standards of medical education. In the 20th century, not only did physicians become a powerful, prestigious, and wealthy profession, but they succeeded in shaping the basic organization and financial structure of American education. Medicine was not a profession 100 years ago. Let's just make some quick changes to those two sentences and see what you think. In the 20th century, the teaching profession was generally weak, divided, insecure in its status and income, unable to control entry into practice or to raise the standards of teacher education. In the 21st century, not only did teachers become a powerful, prestigious, and wealthy profession, but they succeeded in shaping the basic organization and financial structure of American education. I shared those sentences. I shared those sentences with our board of directors at the time, and I said, someday I want to read a book called The Social Transformation of American Education, and we will read those words in it. Dennis Van Rokel immediately said, I want to help write that book. Dennis Van Rokel is now retired from the NEA, but he's come back here today to the Teaching and Learning Conference. And I think he's come back in large part because he maintains that commitment to writing that book. I think all of you are here for that. We have very high-profile people in our profession who are arguing for just this kind of work. But their influence on the future of our profession is no greater than Nancy Fancyboy from Arkansas, from Jonathan Guillotine from Hawaii, Laurie Smith from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, or Mauro Diaz from Wyoming. All of you are here at some level to help our profession write the book that medicine has already written, and we can learn a lot from them. I hope the experiences that you have today and tomorrow at this conference move that agenda, give you new ideas of what the potential is for our profession. Remember that 100 years ago, nobody trusted doctors. Most doctors were also barbers and had other kinds of jobs. But we have to be clear to the public. We have to show the public that through a peer-reviewed, performance-based process, we can ensure them of quality across our workforce. You would not go into surgery tomorrow with a surgeon who said, "I'm not board certified, but I'm just as good. Trust me." We have to hold ourselves to the same standards to the families who send us their children. Thank you for being here today and for all you do for the children of the United States. Now, I have been enormously fortunate in my career to work side by side with a man who, because he has children at the center of his heart, is a great friend to educators. Ralph Smith is the Senior Vice President at the Annie E. Casey Foundation. That gives him a very wide portfolio of work. Today, the centerpiece of that work is the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, which in just a few short years has become a movement in states and communities across the nation to ensure that more low-income children read at grade level by the end of third grade. Work of this magnitude is never done quickly. Ralph only gets into big issues that are going to take years to solve, and he has a great track record. He's shown us what it takes to do this. Over the last few years, he's been in more than 100 different communities. Just as important, he's learned from those communities what they need. Foundations have money. Foundations have the gentle power to convene. But foundations need to listen to communities, to schools, to parents, so that they invest their money wisely. He was here last year to report on the progress of the campaign, and I am delighted that he's come back to give us yet another update. Please welcome our friend and colleague, Mr. Ralph Smith.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here. But before I say another word, I want to acknowledge not just the generous introduction from Ron Thorpe, but I want to acknowledge Ron Thorpe himself. I'll tell you why. In 2013, I'm going to give you a chance to do that. In 2013, there was a gap year for this conference. And there were those who thought that Ron would be so occupied by the challenges and opportunities of his new position that this conference would become a historical footnote. The folks who thought that didn't know Ron Thorpe, did not understand his vision, did not appreciate his passion, did not get his focus, and missed the sense of urgency that he brings to improving education in this nation. And that's why this conference continues, and that's why we are all here today. And I want you to join me in acknowledging and expressing appreciation to our host and visionary, Ron Thorpe. Now, I had a chance to look at the program today, and I'm always impressed and inspired by the lineup, and realize that this morning you'll have an opportunity to hear from a number of people, including the best sector of education ever. Now, in these days of Facebook and Twitter and instant communication, when you say the best secretary ever, I know that Secretary Riley and Secretary Page and Secretary Spellman would probably have heard about me saying that just about 10 seconds ago. So I know they will have one question. I know they will share my sense that Artie Duncan is the best Secretary of Education ever. They will want to know who's number two. And I've got to say to Secretary Riley and Secretary Page and Secretary Spellman, I'm not talking. I am not going to answer that question on or off the record. But I do get a chance to say that what Secretary Duncan has done in the last 5 years has been remarkable, and I'm going to join you in hearing more from him. You know, I wanted to come back. I really wanted to come back here because I wanted you to see that map. I wanted you to see the map of this campaign, and I'm hoping that you can, and now you can. Because that map represents 167, soon to be 170 communities in 41, soon to be 43 states across the country. It represents 2,100 community-based organizations, public libraries, agencies, public housing authorities, business associations, community foundations, Family Foundation, United Ways. Organizations that responded to the call of mayors and public officials and civic leaders to come together to deal with important education issues in their community, including and especially the challenge of making sure all children, with a special focus on low-income children, can read proficiently by the end of third grade. And I wanted you to see that picture because in 2011, Ron asked me and allowed me an opportunity to come to the meeting in New York and to speak about this in small sessions with educators. And those educators almost unanimously endorsed and shared the concern which activates this campaign, and that concern is that we have a large and growing number of children who are falling outside the reach of schools, outside the reach of even good schools with strong leadership, with quality teachers in every classroom, and a supportive instructional climate. And teachers and educators were concerned, and they encouraged us to say what they wanted to say, that too many children were coming to school not ready for what school has to offer, and were so far behind that it was not likely they would catch up by third grade. That too many children were missing too many days of school, and so much instruction that it wouldn't matter if there was great instruction in the classroom because the kids weren't there to hear it and to benefit from it. And thirdly, that as we've known for more than a century, too many kids are not engaged over the summer, return to school in September, farther behind than when they left in June. And in many communities and families, these conditions coexist so that some children who start off behind fall farther behind by missing school and lose even more ground over the summer. And the educators in 2011 urged us to make this a more visible public issue. And we took them at their word, and we went out and we tried to do that. Today, I'm back here. I'm back here because we can claim significant progress, but we need more help. We need your voice. We need you to raise your voice on behalf of these kids. You know, we have made the case that reading proficiency by the end of third grade is important to high school graduation, and kids who do tend to graduate from high schools, and kids who don't tend not, even and especially low-income children. We've made the case that high school graduation is important to our national defense, to us having technological superiority by having more kids go to college and graduate school. We've made the case that it's important to have a workforce prepared to compete in a global economy. And that has worked and worked well. But we need to do more. We need to get a large proportion of the community understanding what reading means to a child. We need to get them to understand that a child who can read is the most powerful contributor and most powerful ally we have in learning. That this child, upon being able to read, becomes an agent for their own learning and development, an advocate of their own interest, and an architect of their own future. We need them to understand the power, the enabling power of a child being able to read. But we need them to understand what those of you in this audience who have worked in classrooms know well, that fourth grader who cannot read, that fourth grader looks around and realizes that there are students who can. We need you to help them imagine themselves as that fourth grader, realizing that their future is now seriously compromised. What incentive does that child have to resist oppositional behavior, to abide by our rules and norms, to respect and trust the adults who have failed? You know, that child realizes that she or he is in trouble, and there's no cavalry coming to help because they're on their way to becoming a statistic, and our time and attention will be spent in helping those students to learn who can help themselves. We need you to help a large group of Americans understand that while children may leave school in 8th, 9th, or 10th grade, in fact, they drop out in 4th. Only you can do that. If there's such a thing as an intergenerational compact, we would say that that compact would have us commit to making sure our children are born healthy. But you know what? Those newborns don't know how often we fail. That compact would commit us to making sure that kids are thriving at 3 and are on track in terms of their development. But you know what? That 3-year-old doesn't know how often we fail. Nor does that kid entering school know and understand how often we fail to prepare him or prepare her. But that 4th grader knows and understands that they have been failed by us and by all of us. You know, the intergenerational compact would say that we should leave our children in the next generation a planet with clean air to breathe and water to drink and arable land to grow food. We should leave them a nation that is strong, secure, at peace and respected by its neighbors and the world. We should leave them a country with an infrastructure that is not imploding and collapsing and exploding, that we should leave them not just less debt, but more value. All these things that are part of that intergenerational compact are at risk, because there is no way we're going to persuade the next generation that we can do any of that if first we don't teach them to read. The good news is this map with 167 communities, with 41 states, with 2,100 organizations representing hundreds of thousands of engaged citizens. The good news is that help is on the way, and we need you to bring more. Thank you very much.
Over the last year, the National Board has been working with the Department of Education, the Department of the Interior, the Bureau of Indian Education, on some very special needs that our children and teachers have in tribal schools around the country. The BIE is set out on a very bold course. They literally think that they want to have 25% of their teachers board certified by 2020. This is a huge lift. It's coming directly from President Obama. To bring greetings from the President, please welcome his advisor on Native American Affairs and Director of Generation Indigenous, Jody Gillette.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank my colleagues for bringing us all together, especially Ron and his team. They've been wonderful to work with. And I want to just say that it's really important, and I think each and every one of you in this room here today, my mother's a teacher and has been a teacher most of my life, and my dad is also a principal, an educator, a director, and they are the reason that I'm here today. I am from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and I went to school at a BIE school, and I am also the advisor or the special assistant to the president, and I have a very unique perspective because the statistics for Native Americans do not bode well. And this is something that I've known most of my life, but I think that it's time that the United States as a country, the education advocates and teachers everywhere understand the kind of crisis that we're in. high-quality teachers and principals like yourselves make an enormous difference in the lives of all children, including Native Americans. And improving the lives and opportunities for Native youth is a really high priority for the President. There are Native teachers here today, Jovita Moyer and Jolene Rose and folks like that, but we have a larger call of action to this group. The President went to Standing Rock this past summer and visited with a number of youth, and the things that he heard touched him deeply. And for that reason, he directed his staff and cabinet secretaries to do everything they can to develop something that will make a difference in the lives of Native youth, and that something is Generation Indigenous. Generation Indigenous is an initiative that focuses on removing barriers and addressing some really serious circumstances that stand in the way of Native youth achieving their full potential. One of the central components of Generation Indigenous is the partnership that we have with the National Board, and that is something we are undertaking in the BIE reform and redesign at the Department of Interior, and this is something that is really important to our work. A challenge that all BIE schools face, and frankly all rural schools face, is that being in remote locations and in very hard-to-reach areas of the country, it's extremely difficult to recruit effective teachers and leaders to so many schools. And so we've really looked at the issue of recruitment and retention and the ability to attract high-quality teachers. This is something that has been a barrier for a while, but we're also looking at ways that we can train and enhance the skills and tools that existing teachers in the BIE school systems can improve as they teach Native youth. So in order to reach this goal, we've gone through a series of different action items, one of which is the partnership with the National Board. And just want you to know that right now, today, we have over 200 teachers at BIE-funded schools registered for Component 1, and that's a huge achievement. So we're very excited about our partnership. We're extremely, extremely happy that more than just Native Americans are paying attention to this issue, because although we can train as many Native teachers as we can possibly put our efforts towards, this is a national issue, and we need everybody to understand. BIE schools only educate 10% of Native American children. The remaining 90% are in public schools. And so that's important for everyone to realize that there are Native children. We want to provide better tools for them. We want to be able to provide the best education possible. And what you do today and the things that you're talking about and thinking about here is going to impact the lives and the future of children for generations to come. So I hope that you become more aware. We just published a a Native Youth Report from the White House that talks more about the history and the statistics. We need to understand best practices that work out there in the field. We want to understand how we can share better the work that's talking about culturally relevant curriculum, and we look forward to future partnerships with you. Thank you very much.
Jody, we hope you'll come back next year and give us an update on this wonderful initiative. I'd ask you to share two things with President Obama. First of all, this initiative is supported by every teacher in this hall, all 3,000 of them. We have our own schools, our own children. They are our first priority. But as professionals, we care about the teachers and children in every school in America. And secondly, and I know I'm primarily speaking for myself on this, but I think most of you agree. We do not believe in parachuting teachers into these communities. We believe that the best teachers of these children are the teachers who are of these communities, who understand them the most, who are committed to them first and foremost, and want to spend their careers helping those children. That's what we believe in, and that's what we think this initiative is going to lead to.